Hi, I'm Patrick Giguere with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology, and welcome to March 2022. So this is a monthly video for March 2022. I'm going to give a summary in the beginning, and I'll do a little breakdown and talk about some of the individual days this month and how the conjunctions and alignments and everything factor into what's going on. And I'm working on just being more brief here and being more concise. And I don't know, it seems like the months lately are definitely lending themselves to that. You know, there's like a few big themes, there's a few big days, and that's pretty much it. And we sort of kind of live through the aftershocks of those handful of big days. And then too, you know, my whole way of looking at all of this and doing this is changing. So there's a lot of different factors going on, but I'm going to try to get you out of here in not too much time. So let's get into it. So we're definitely living in interesting times here. We're waiting for big things to happen, and big things are happening, and they will continue, and I think things will escalate. But really what's going on here is World War III is already going, but it's a mental war. It's a spiritual war. You hear me talk about how the cycles that drove the American Revolution and Civil War and World War II are reoccurring all within the next few years. And so where our minds naturally go when we hear something like that is like, we think that there's going to be some big bloodbath and it's going to be a conventional war. And history is going to literally repeat. And this is what I thought. I read Babylon's Banksters by Joseph Farrell. What was that? 7-8 years ago? Maybe a little more. And he talked about these recurring astrological cycles. And I was like, shit, it's gonna be a war. And it's like, I'm not seeing that. It's the mental and spiritual war, because people in general they're more sophisticated than they used to be, and they can see bullshit as it's coming. We still collectively have a lot of work to do to be able to do this effectively, but people are getting better at it. And you know, like Zbigniew Brzezinski, before he died, he was a globalist, member of like Trilateral Commission. What's the other one there? Council on Foreign Relations, attended Bilderberg meetings. He was a national security advisor twice. He was a real like 007 kind of a triple agent kind of a person. And he even, in his last few years of public life, he even spoke about how people are waking up around the world. And it's very kind of dangerous for the plans of these globalist mega trillionaires and mega corporations. So he was even pointing this out, that people are waking up. We have work to do, but it's happening. So this really World War III is going on already, and it's a war against our mental, physical, and spiritual sovereignty. So there's a lot going on that is not readily apparent. Things go on every day, but since the media doesn't sensationalize it, people they either don't see it going on, or they just don't see the significance of the event. It's like this whole Ukraine thing, where here in America all these people because the media has presented that story about this alleged Russian invasion in a certain way, you have all these Americans who normally don't give a shit that a war is going on. They didn't give a shit that a war in Afghanistan was going on for 20 years. But now that the media is saying something about Ukraine, they're all spun up about it. While the Ukrainian president has actually publicly asked American, or I should say US intelligence agencies for proof that Russia is about to invade. So the president of that country hasn't seen convincing evidence that this is happening. But people still don't, a lot of people still don't see that things like this are going on. So we're getting better collectively, but we're not going, it's, this World War III is not going to be in the headlines. Like, you're either going to be able to see it and feel it and figure it out, or you're not. And that's pretty much how it's going to be. Because, you know, boredom is a great tool for ruling people's lives, for ruling their minds, and for ruling the world. And I think after World War II, you know, the big globalist interests really figured this out. They were like, if we get people all passionate and worked up, we could lose control of this whole thing. But if we keep them bored, if we keep them everything matter of fact, we can really steer them in the direction we want. So, you know, on that note, as far as March goes, you know, really to sum March up, you know, the biggest things, the biggest events going on in March come down to the March 2nd, new moon in Aquarius. The very next day, you've got Pluto, Mars, and Venus all conjunct in Capricorn. They stay conjunct for about a week from the 3rd to the 10th, so they move a degree every day, until Venus eventually pulls ahead, because Venus is a faster planet than Mars, but Venus was retrograde and it's coming out of shadow and it's still picking up speed. And then you've got that full moon in Virgo, you know, that's another big one here. And I'd say those are like the three big ones, you know, and you got some other alignments this month, but those are the big ones. And two, we're in a Kala Sarpa Yoga. So Kala Sarpa Yoga, Kala Sarpa means time serpent, yoga means union. So union you can think of as conjunction or alignment when it comes to astrology, you know, in that context. So Kala Sarpa Yoga is when all the planets are on one side of the Rahu Ketu axis. And Kala Sarpa Yogas are just when, by definition, it's just when all the visible planets, so we're talking Sun out to Mars, are on that one side. We kind of have like a super Kala Sarpa going on, because all of the, even the outer planets, the planets that are invisible to the naked eye, that traditional Vedic astrology doesn't acknowledge, even those are on the same, are all on one side of the Rahu Ketu axis, the same side as the visible planets, both personal and social. So when you get these Kala Sarpa yogas, things feel very out of control, very crazy, you know, even surreal. It's just like, man, this can't be happening. But when these crazy things happen, when things feel out of control, it's kind of a birth pain, and these things happen in order to bring in a new phase of your life, a new kind of era for all of us. It's always for a purpose, but it often sucks, I gotta be honest. So, yeah, that's basically, that's one of the big things. That Kala Sarpa is going on the whole month. It goes on until, I want to say, I think it's into April or May. Don't have it right in front of me. Now, in summary, another thing about this month is we are basically, when it comes to this new moon, you know, it's in Aquarius. So Aquarius is all about, it's the original ruler of the 11th house. So 11th house is the future, it's your hopes, your dreams, it's everything you want out of life. It can be financial gain. It's your social networks, you know, your wider social networks, you know, friendships, well, more like acquaintances, you know, not so much your close friends. It's even large organizations, so, you know, it plays into like doing business quite a bit. But, you know, really more importantly, it's everything you want out of life. It's all of your hopes, dreams, desires. So that's where this new moon's going on. It's going on at 17 degrees of Aquarius. Conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter will be at 20 degrees of Aquarius. So Jupiter expands things. So, you know, when I'm looking at this, it's basically like this new moon is all about, it's like the birth of all the things that we want in life. Because new moons are, excuse me, it's when these things are conceived. I look at full moons more as births, and then I look at the new moon as like a conception, because it happens in the dark. And physically, with, animals, all types of animals, all types of animal organisms, conception happens in the dark. The womb is a dark place. So, when the moon darkens, that's the way I look at it. Things are conceived, and then they're later born. So this is really, it's a time of knowing what you want to manifest going forward. This is a big new moon. So yeah, that's really the way I'm looking at this. And it's about knowing what you want and taking the steps to get it, and just doing what you have to do in your life in order to reach that goal. So, in Jupiter, the bestower of gifts, the benevolent one, the teacher of the cosmos, Jupiter's even a protector too, because physically, Jupiter sucks in asteroids that could be a threat to the Earth. So, Jupiter is always represented by thunder gods. Excuse me, like Thor, for example. And thunder gods are always protectors of the Earth and humanity. So, this really powerful being, this Jupiter, is conjunct this new moon, where we're thinking about and manifesting what it is that we want out of life. So that's really big here. And while that's going on, while that new moon is going on, you have in Capricorn, in the next sign over, you're going to have Venus, Mars, and Pluto all around 2 to 3 degrees. So those are conjunct. So Venus, Mars, that can go in different ways. Venus and Mars can be passion, because Mars is the fire, the lust, the energy. Venus is sensuality, romance, friendship, social activity. So you put the two together, you get a lot of passion. This can go both ways. The way I look at it is, it's like the divine masculine and divine feminine together. So the divine masculine, provides like protection, reliability, steadfastness, and the divine feminine brings in a lot of power and brings in the ability to really enjoy things. Now they're going to be conjunct Pluto, and Pluto gets sensationalized as like a horrible, evil planet. Pluto's all about healing, because Pluto's a god of the underworld. Pluto makes us deal with things and makes us see things clearly. And then in Capricorn, at the same time, you have Saturn and Mercury conjunct at 24 degrees. Mercury is the intellect. Mercury is the details, seeing the details, getting things ordered intellectually. And Saturn is the lawgiver, not the lawgiver, but the enforcer of the law, of natural law, of universal law, of your personal law, because Saturn's job is to enforce our own sort of soul contracts on us. So we're all born with things we want to do in life. If we stray off that path, Saturn gives us obstacles and holds us back and makes us come back to our true selves. So Saturn restricts things. Saturn is a restrictor. Saturn slows things down. So when you get Saturn and Mercury in conjunction, it basically slows intellectual thinking down. Saturn is saying, don't get intellectual about this. Don't make a Ben Franklin list of pros and cons. Don't be brainy about this. And because you've got Mars, Venus, and Pluto together, basically Saturn is holding Mercury back and saying, you need to feel this in your heart. So, in order to know what you want to manifest going forward, you need to feel this in your heart. You can't use the calculator between your ears to figure this out. So Saturn's powerful, and Saturn is saying, you can't think your way through this one. You got to feel this, because to manifest new things and to maintain those things in your life, you have to have feeling behind them. You have to have passion behind them. You just can't, you know, you can't plod your way through life. Sometimes you have to plod along, but you've got to have that emotional fuel and that emotional fire to propel your life. So that's what we're being asked to weigh out. And then, you know, the next day it's even stronger because March 3rd, Pluto, Mars, Venus, all conjunct 3 degrees of Capricorn. Saturn and Mercury are still together. Saturn is still saying, don't noodle your way through this, feel it. And like I said, they're staying together until March 10th. Mars and Venus. Pluto's going to stay where it is. It moves very slowly. So, you know, again, this is a window for... It's also a window for sort of looking at our duties and our obligations and asking ourselves, are we basically like swearing oaths that we believe in? Are we making and keeping promises? Are we taking up obligations that we believe in and that we have feelings for? Or are we just doing it because it seems like a good idea and we think we should do it, and you know, we don't want to upset people? So, and it's like a window of opportunity. If your heart is not in your obligations, you know, you may have to change some things up. So, not easy times, but you know, life is not easy. It's, you know, we're not promised that. And then, you know, one of the last big things here, full moon in Virgo on the same day as when Rahu and Ketu, the nodes of the moon, change signs. So that full moon in Virgo is all about healing, health. It's about struggles, it's about battles, it's about public service. And again, full moons are a time of birth. It's when things come to light, things come into the light. It's also where we feel our full emotional consciousness, and that can be very uncomfortable. People go a little nuts during a full moon, or they just get, you know, uncomfortable, unsettled, because we're just feeling all of our emotions. So we're basically feeling all of our emotions about, you know, who do we serve in life? Who do we provide service to? And then, like, what battles do we choose to fight? What struggles do we choose to take up? So that'll highlight all that. And that full moon is actually conjunct within 1 degree a fixed star called Al-Arat, or another name for it is Zavi Java. So this is the head of the maiden, because Virgo is depicted as a maiden, you know, young woman. So this star, it's referred to as those who send forth others to carry out orders. And it's kind of a star of like reliable, dependable workers who they follow their orders. They don't ask a lot of questions. Now this is really interesting because Virgo is a sign of public service, of public servants. And then for America, it's the 10th house of government. So this is really a time to question, you know, what battles are you fighting? Who are you fighting them for? Who told you to fight them? And are those orders, are they valid? Do you believe in them enough to carry them out? And what is the character of the people giving you these orders? And I think in America, this is going to come up. You know, who the hell do these people think they are? They work for us. You know, we're not their little serfs. And this is really a time too where you want to ask yourself, am I doing things that people in positions of authority are telling me are best for me, or am I living life the way I really want to be? So that's a big question that nobody can answer for you. They'll try to answer it for you, but it's not their place to do so. So, yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot going on here. So that's pretty much it in summary. It's really about, this is a big month for, again, manifesting what you want your future to be, in the short term and in the long term. So what did we see here? Yeah, we got about 20 minutes. So that's pretty much it in summary. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to end it here, then that's going to do it. If you want to stick around for the detailed summary and synopsis, you're welcome to do so. Thanks a lot. All right. A sip of tea and I'm ready. Another sip of tea, I'll be really ready. All right. So let me see, y'all. Yeah, so like I said, March 1st, you've got Venus, Mars, Pluto, all in 1 degree in Capricorn. So this is, Mars and Venus together, it's our passion. And with Pluto, it's all about seeing things clearly, seeing our passions really clearly, and asking ourselves what we really want to be passionate about. And then, just starting that month, you've got Mercury and Saturn close in Capricorn in the same sign. You got Mercury at 23 degrees, Saturn at 24. So again, Saturn limits things and slows things down. So Saturn is slowing down our intellectual thinking. And this is really a cue to feel what's in your heart. Follow your heart. If Mercury was in Virgo with this Mars and Venus conjunction, I would say that's a time to really be intellectual about things, to think about things, but it's not that time. It's right next to Saturn. Saturn is holding that intellectual thinking, weighing the pros and cons. It's holding it back. It's like, just forget the facts for a minute. What do you feel? And then in Aquarius, that day, the moon's approaching the sun. We don't quite have that new moon yet. But you've got Jupiter and Neptune in there. They're getting ready for a conjunction in, what is it now? April or May. But they're moving closer together. And, Neptune is all about the illusions in the world and in our lives. And Neptune can help us to see through them, or Neptune can help us to fool ourselves. It just kind of depends where we meet it. And Jupiter expands all that. So, all this stuff is really up to us. It's not, we don't just get delivered, our destinies on a silver platter. So then, moving to March 2nd, that new moon in Aquarius I was talking about. Again, Aquarius, where the new moon happens, it's all about the future. It's all about what you want in life. What are your dreams? What are your desires? And it's about moving toward them. The previous sign, Capricorn, is all about sucking it up. Do your duty. Shut up. Don't bitch. And then in Aquarius, it's all about, what do you want? You could have anything. What is it? Nobody can tell you, only you. And that new moon, pretty good conjunction, is within 3 degrees of Jupiter. Jupiter's a strong planet. It's got a big orb. So 3 degrees, it's being within 3 degrees, this new moon is being heavily influenced by Jupiter. So again, Jupiter expands things. Jupiter is a giver of benevolence and gifts and protection. So it's a really powerful new moon where we can... Jupiter is helping us to have greater awareness of what it is that we want to sort of conceive and manifest. So, yeah, we're getting a lot of help here because, Jupiter's like he's like a big brother, he's like an uncle, and he's like, hey, he's trying to help you out and hook you up and do nice things for you. So, really fortunate sort of a conjunction here. So, yeah, there's a lot of help from the universe to really manifest good things here, but we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to, dig deep and really understand what it is that we want. And like I said, at that same time, back in Capricorn, Venus, Pluto, and Mars all within a degree, so our passion is conjunct. So Venus and Mars form this intense passion. It's conjunct Pluto, the god of the underworld, that helps us to basically look under the rug and see what's under there, see what's deep within ourselves. Pluto's not a tormentor as the god of the underworld. Pluto helps us to look deep inside ourselves, into our own underworlds, and to heal what's in there and to bring the best parts out. It's like in the Greek myths how Persephone had to marry Hades, aka Pluto, the god of the underworld, but she would come out for half the year. She would go in there for the winter, she would come out in the summer. So she would spend half her year on Earth and half in the underworld. So this is, to me, that's kind of about how you have to go into that underworld and sort things out and then reemerge, bring all the healing and the transformation back out into this overworld. And with that going on, like I said, you got Saturn and Mercury conjunct. So Saturn is holding back the intellect, Mercury, and saying, Saturn really calls the shots. The sun calls the shots because the sun is like the royal, the sovereign ruler. But Saturn helps the sun implement things and keep things practical and keeps things from getting out of balance. So Saturn has a ton of power in how things actually work on Earth. Saturn really rules a 3D environment. So Saturn being conjunct that Mercury, the intellect, is saying, you can't think about what your passions are because passions are not rational, logical thoughts. They're feelings. So Saturn is saying, it's not time to think, you got to feel. I'm basically putting your intellect in sleep mode. Like I said before, this was a time to think about what we want. Mercury would be at home in Virgo. We'd have all the intellectual power in the world. So, yeah, that's what that's all about. And again, you move to March 3rd. Pluto, Mars, Venus. Perfect conjunction at 3 degrees Capricorn. And we're really looking deep into, what is it that we're passionate about? What do we want? What do we deeply want? And really healing the blocks around that in our lives. So, pretty wild time. And again, Mercury and Saturn will be at the same degree. Saturn is holding back that intellectual thinking. So it's not time to just think something over and over and make your Ben Franklin pros and cons list. You got to feel it. If you can't feel it, you're pretty lost, in my opinion. So, yeah. What's the next thing? Oh yeah, and then, so Pluto moves slowly, but Venus and Mars are actually going to move 1 degree a day. They're going to stay together to March 10th. So they're going to be moving together from 3 degrees of Capricorn through 9 degrees. So this is a window for really knowing what your passions are. And again, because it's Capricorn, it's about knowing what obligations and responsibilities you are passionate about taking up and seeing through. So all kinds of duties in life, duties is like your work, your close relationships, your friendships, even your business. This is, all of those things require responsibility in order to enjoy and to keep. And, another interesting thing here too is that Capricorn for America is the second house of wealth and finance. So to me, this is because the second house is the original ruler of the second house is Taurus. So to me, this is all about people asking themselves, how do they feel about their physical environment? Do they want things to go on like this? With the basically the bullshit, illegal, inflated, paper money. Well, it's digital money now, and just with the way things work on Earth, with how we abuse the environment, and just our whole consumerist attitude that leads to a lot of really destructive things. So I think we're really being called to take a second look at how we interact with the material world. And then too, Capricorn is a sign of government for the whole world. So people all around the world are really being, this is a real gut check and a real heart check. We're being asked to evaluate how we feel about we're being treated by government. We're not being called to think about it. We're being called to feel about it. And you know, the other side of the coin with a Venus and Mars conjunction is that it can be passionate, like I said, or Venus and Mars together can be abusive. So, you know, it can be an indicator of domestic violence. You have to look at, you know, how do the home signs of these planets look. Now, Aries has, which Mars rules, has Uranus in it. So Uranus is a disruptor. Uranus disrupts the status quo. It's, in ancient times, it's called the earth shaker, having to, you know, being responsible for earthquakes. So this is a real call to disrupt government, basically, to disrupt the abuse of government, the overreach of government all around the world. So people are being called to check their own feelings to see how they feel about the people who have taken it upon themselves to boss them around. It's not a brain thing, it's a heart and gut thing. And then, what do we have? March 5th, we've got Sun and Jupiter conjunct. So a few days after that new moon, Sun and Jupiter conjunct, was it 20, 21 degrees of Aquarius. So Sun and Jupiter, you know, Jupiter expands the qualities of the Sun. So the Sun is all about what's in our hearts, what we want in our hearts, what will make us feel fulfilled and, you know, gratified and everything. So right after that new moon, where we're being called to sort of plant the seeds for all the things we want to manifest in life, then we have this Sun-Jupiter conjunction, basically expanding all that solar kind of heart energy. So then we move on to the full moon in Virgo, March 17th, March 18th. And on that same time, we have the nodes, Rahu and Ketu, the head and tail of the dragon, change signs. So, like I said, first off, full moon, it's at 3 degrees of Virgo. So it's conjunct within 1 degree the fixed star called Zarijava, or another name is Al-Arat. These are Arabic names. So this fixed star is the head of the maiden. And it's about, again, those who send forth others to carry out their orders. So it's a star of reliable, attentive workers that really don't ask a lot of questions. They just do. They get the orders and they just do. So Virgo for the whole world, it's public service. It's public servants. It's battles, conflicts, struggles, health, illness, disease, cures, medicines, shots. So to me, this is about, for one, we're being called to basically kind of fight for what we believe in life, for one. The other thing too is we're being called to look at what's been going on in the whole realm of health and healthcare and hospitals and medicine, because Virgo is the sign of physicians, doctors, health, healing, medicines, illness. So, and then for America, Virgo is the 10th house of government. So this is really an opportunity to look at people who have been giving orders to other people to carry out. You know, and they've been giving these orders to people that they've put into positions of leadership who really don't ask questions. So Yeah, this is a time to ask a lot of questions about what the public servants have been up to. You know, and Virgo is a sign of public servants as well. So we're being asked to think critically about what the public servants have been up to, because especially since 9/11, we've been treated like we're employees of all these governments and that they're our overlords. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because our labor, we give up a quarter or a third of our labor through these really illegal tax systems, and we pay their damn salaries. So they work for us. The whole thing's been very mixed up. All right, March 28th, we have before I move on, so March 17th, 18th, the nodes change signs. So K2 goes to Libra, Rahu goes to Aries. So they change these nodes, Rahu, Ketu, they change signs every year and a half. And they are the karmic nodes. They're always in opposite signs, so they create a karmic axis. So based on where they are, it's basically, they determine the issues we're going to deal with. So Rahu and Aries is the original first house. Aries is what goes on in our heads. It's taking the initiative, it's moving forward, it's taking the lead. And it's individuality, because Aries has a lot to do with individuality. So, and Rahu is present life karma. It's what we want to take in, it's what we want to do. K2 being the south node, the tail of the dragon, it's in Libra. So the south node releases things and lets things go. So Libra is, if Aries is yourself, Libra is all the others. Libra is the social sign. It's all social activity, relationships, romances, business partnerships, all the other people in the world. Name a type of relationship, it falls under Libra. So K2 cuts things away. K2 releases things. So this is really a time of kind of like checking our alliances and seeing if our alliances are really true to our values and true to what we want and true to our visions and, the destinies that we envision. So for the next year and a half, you're going to see this around the world, where a lot of alliances that looked really solid are going to break up. And I think we're seeing this with Ukraine, because the Western banks, the private central banks, basically captured Ukraine through a coup back in, intelligence service led coup back in, 2014, 2015. And they made a Goldman Sachs employee a Ukrainian citizen, so this person could be the finance minister. It was really crooked. And it was all about stealing a trading partner from Russia and putting missile systems on the borders of Russia. And for some reason this is okay with Americans, but if the Russians put missile systems in Canada and Mexico, people would just lose their shit. So the point is I think Ukrainians are getting sick of this. And it's been funny in the news, as CIA and all these dirtbag intelligence services keep saying that, raising this alarm that Russia is about to invade Ukraine. Ukrainian president comes on TV and says, I haven't seen any credible proof of this. Could somebody please show me? And he's telling Biden, why don't you come visit me here? It's really not that dangerous. So, yeah, alliances are being rethought and broken and reformed. So it'll be an interesting year and a half. And this will get us into 2024, when we get the Pluto return for America and the second American Revolution starts. And then Uranus will come to where it was in 1939 when World War II started. And like I said, I don't think this revolution and this World War III, they're not bloodbaths, because we're already living them. Things are going to get tense. People are going to get worked up. There's going to be some rioting. There might be some skirmishes militarily, but I'm not seeing the big bloodbath. So I just keep encouraging people, don't worry about that part. But alliances all around the world, from a personal level up to a global level, are going to shift. All right. March 28th. Saturn and Venus conjunct. So again, Venus is the social planet. So romance, friendship, love, diplomacy, business. What was the other one? Mediation. It's all about sensual pleasures, enjoying the physical environment, enjoying the Maya. Saturn is restriction. Saturn is also karma. So, but the interesting thing here is that, one way to look at this is like you get a Saturn-Venus conjunction. It's like, you can look at it like, oh, Saturn's going to take the fun and the pleasure away from you. But these planets, Saturn and Venus, they're conjunct at 27 degrees of Capricorn, right on top of the fixed star, Nashira. So Nashira is the bringer of good tidings, the bringer of good news, the fortunate one, bringer of good fortune. It's the tail of the sea goat. Capricorn's a sea goat. So it's like upper body goat with a fishtail for a lower body. So the tail of a fish moves things forward. So it's like, what do they say? Fair winds and following seas, a nice wind to fill your sails and, blow your ship to your destination. So that's the way I look at that, with the tail of the sea goat. This star is ruled by Saturn and Jupiter. So a thing about Saturn is Saturn doesn't let really bad things happen in the signs that it rules, or in the signs that or the houses that it rules over. So like 6th and the 8th houses, for example. No matter what signs they are. If Saturn's there, Saturn's kind of protecting those houses. So when Saturn rules over a fixed star, it's the same thing. So this is a pretty good sign. So when you got Saturn and Venus conjunct right on top of this, I think it's karma for good things to happen. It's like a karma for enjoying things and having good friendships and good relationships, and it's like a karma for a good time and like for success, really. So that's pretty neat. In a birth chart they say this: if you have planets conjunct the star, it brings a life full of change. Like I said, it deals with success and it deals with good rulership. So it was kind of like a sought after thing, if like for rulers to have planets conjunct this star in the old days, like in medieval times. And when planets were conjunct this star, it was a good day or a good time, a good few days, because Saturn moves slowly. It was a good time period for rulers to make good decisions. So, yeah, I think this is the time too of people making good decisions over the various relationships and partnerships in their lives and their efforts to make money, gain wealth, enjoy the physical environment more. So, pretty cool. Last day I'm going to mention, March 31st, Venus enters Aquarius. So after this sort of bestowing of, the karma of good fortune by the fixed star Nashira and by Saturn, Venus moves into Aquarius, which is, again, what we want out of life. What are our aspirations, our desires. So, pretty neat. So basically, Venus, planet of, again, wealth, sensual pleasures, material goods, relationships, romance, friendships, mediation, diplomacy. It moves into Aquarius, this house of all of our desires. And let me see, so within a couple weeks, then it'll come to the point, 17 degrees. Well, better part of 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Wait, yeah, 2.5 weeks. It'll move to that 17th degree of Aquarius where that new moon happened. So, I think it's about all those things we want to enjoy in life. gaining more traction. So, pretty neat month. But you know, there will be some there'll be some low-grade unrest as people start thinking twice about, you know, what people in positions of authority are doing. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and check out my website, thecosmicalchemist.com. Get the link down in the description. And if you've not had a Vedic astrology reading or a rune reading with me, I highly recommend either one of those. Great ways in times like this where we're reevaluating where the world is going, where our lives are going. It's a great way to sort of step back, kind of take an objective look at yourself and really gain some confidence in things you intuitively knew about yourself, but you may not have had full confidence in. And it's a great way too to just sort of examine how it is that you tick. And some of the things I deal with too, especially in an astrology reading, it's all about what was the karma that brought you into this life, into this incarnation. What were you born here to accomplish? So, thanks again for tuning in, and look forward to talking to you later. Have a good one.